Fiona Tinwei Lam. Her third collection of poetry, Odes and Laments, was launched last fall. She has authored a children's book, edited the Brightwell Contemporary Canadian Poems on Facing Cancer, and co-edited Love Me True. Writers reflect on the ins, outs, ups and downs of marriage with Jane Silcott. Lam won the New Quarterly's Nick Blatchford Prize and was a finalist for the City of Vancouver Book Award. Her work appears in more than 30 anthologies, including The Best of the Best, Canadian Poetry in English, 10th Anniversary Edition, and Forcefield 77 Women Poets of BC. Her poetry videos have screened at festivals internationally. She teaches at SFU Continuing Studies.
I'm very pleased to read from my new collection, Odes and Laments. It was inspired by Pablo Neruda's Odes Laments, Odes to Ordinary Things. He wrote to artichokes, to chairs, to all kinds of ordinary things. And because there's so much despair right now, not only COVID, but the climate crisis, pollution, and so forth, I really felt the need to try to find beauty, wonder, and delight in the ordinary. So I'm going to start with the one of the beginning poems in the book. It's called Vision. It's dedicated to Elise Partridge, a wonderful American-Canadian poet who passed away of cancer a few years ago. One word you might not know is drusen. Drusen are fatty protein deposits in your eyes. They're a sign of macular degeneration. Vision. Sting of dilation, past cornea, past iris, through pupil, through lens to retina, glowing vermilion orb in the night of the ophthalmologist's screen. Flare of optic disc, well of macula, pit of fovea, intricate mosaics deciphering light. No drusen yet, no golden portents of waning vision that flecked my mother's eyes. No signs of war's twisting shadows that sieved and warped our world into sinister landscapes concealing peril. A decade after her death, a flash, sudden dimness. Behind my pupils, wisps of torn vitreous dangle, tattered gauze. But beyond her eyes or mine is the vision I need now to take me high, deep, far. Let words be my telescope to enter the spiral whorls of astral ancestors in deep space or in fingertips. Microscope to travel the delicate labyrinths of cells, or magnifying glass, the simplest lens I can hold, close to petal, pebble, leaf, flake, truth. So this theme of the kitchen sink poems, how about a kitchen counter poem? I'm going to read a kitchen counter type poem here, a food poem. I hope you guys have had dinner. Well, you can always eat something later on. In my 1-minute poem for Poet's Corner, I read about the potato, Ode to the Potato. And I thought, I'm going to write about the potato, I better write about rice. And so here's a poem about rice. And it was inspired by an image by Edward Bertinsky of all the rice terraces, but then it took a quick detour to my kitchen counter. Rice. Curve upon curve, terraces ripple a valley with sheens of green, silver, gray, rhythmic seams undulating as if land were wave. Najaf. The boy, aged 4, eyes half closed, sitting in the red-brown dirt, legs stretched before him, dusty sneakers beside bare feet. He leans against his father, murmurs. The father listens, clasps his son's small fingers. His body curves over him, a warm cocoon. Perhaps he murmurs back the boy's name, a story, or lullaby. He knows about the nightmare. We don't know what muffled sounds are uttered, unuttered, beneath the black hood, deleting his head and face as if burnt through celluloid into our eyes. Loops of barbed wire fence man, boy, to the nightmare that coils into us. The next image is a poem called Dark Mirror. It's a palindrome. For those of you who don't know what a palindrome is, it's something that's done in reverse order, a mirror opposite. And here, the poem has the lines in a certain order, and then there's a mirror reverse order in the second part. And I wrote this poem about social media and the internet, and I wanted to use white space to scatter the words in the page to represent our scattered attention spans, our scattered brains. And so here goes, Dark Mirror. Silent we sit, souls flicker, sipping. Mirror, mirror, who loves, unloves us? Preen, peer, window after window after window. A harvest of hearts collaging the narratives. Exit the maze with a few clicks. With a few clicks, enter the maze. The narratives collaging, a harvest of hearts, window after window after window. Peer, preen, who loves, unloves us? Mirror, mirror, flicker, sipping souls, we sit silent. So you see that often on the bus, people just staring at their screens, or even at a table in a restaurant, couples who are staring at their screens and not even interacting. So that's a poem about that. The next poem I'm going to read, I'm actually not going to sing. Well, maybe I'll sing a little bit of it. It's about the writing process. And sometimes the writing process is the revising process. And Mary Oliver talks about revising poems 40 times and doing a lot of removal of the extraneous. And that can be very hard as a poet, because unlike prose writers where, you know, you're writing whatever 1,000 words a day or 500 words a day and accumulating, with poems often you're shrinking and shrinking. So this poem, Unwrite, is about this experience that is so common to poets. And I wanted to show it to you because it has a shape of a funnel. And there are also homonyms at the end of the poem. There's the word in English that's used for zero, not. Then there's the knot that you tie, and then there's the knot, which is the negative. Unwrite. Write a poem and make it disappear as you rearrange stanzas, shift phrases from the start to the end of lines, or from end to start. Replace words and compress, distill, then distill again, condensing description, image, intro, lop off adjective, adverb, article, conjunction, comma, colon, period, whittle everything down to bare essence until ballad is haiku or less. Phrase, word, syllable, riddle, swallowed in white breath, a blank wink, a knot, a knot, a void. So the next poem I'm going to read, Odes to Ordinary Things, the Ode to the Utility Pole. And John Updike, famous American writer, actually wrote a poem about telephone poles. And he said, the nature of our construction is in every way a better fit than the nature it displaces. These giants are more constant than evergreens by never being green. Well, I had to respond to that, of course. So here's my poem, my ode to the utility pole. Once a teeming green cosmos, 130 million of you, southern yellow pine, Pacific silver fir, lodgepole pine, jack pine, western red cedar, Douglas fir, forest plunder dismembered into bald gray spines soaked with creosote, studding highways, roadsides, alleys. Column after rootless column, aligned in a motionless mule train, crisscrossing the continent along infinite grids. Telegraph, telephone, smart meter backhaul, video service, internet, cable TV, transformers, fiber optics, equipment enclosures, disconnect switches, electric meters, streetlights. While you root the human, current, pulse, signal, now sing in your cross arms. Only woodpeckers remember, drill you back into tree. So the next image on the list here is a beautiful image. It's a woodblock print by Misato Arakushi of a painting by Mary Pratt. How many people out there love Mary Pratt? I love Mary Pratt. And she passed away recently, but her art remains. And she did wonderful, speaking of kitchen sink poems again and odes to the ordinary, beautiful paintings of domestic scenes of fruit and jars of jelly and fish and tea, you name it. Beautiful, beautiful paintings. And I decided to write an echrostic poem, short echrostic poem about lemon. The lemon surrenders itself. Wedges of light ignited by late afternoon sun, burnishing the silver boat of its saucer that floats atop the table's inky glimmer. Translucent layers of shadow fall like spires, ghost leaves from a forgotten grove. At the center, incandescence. So one of the things I really love is really good organic fresh pressed apple juice, because I can't drink wine and so forth, or beer, unfortunately. That has to go out to my partner in singing that you can't see, who doesn't want to be seen. But yes, there he is, his hand. Thank you, hand of partner. Here is an example of one of these apples that might get juiced, or, you know, when you carve it away, there isn't a whole lot left, but a lot of little apples from our tree. And it's part of the harvest right now, October apple season. And, you know, apples have so much to them. And I was in Summerland recently, and I saw these groves where all these beautiful apples were just wasted away. They're wasting away. No one was picking them because they didn't have the workers to pay the workers. And also it doesn't make money to make apple juice out of them. They have to make cider. And with the pandemic, it's just a real struggle. So I tried to actually squeeze in and get an apple from under the fence. And I got one, but and I couldn't get more. I guess that was stealing, but it was going to rot anyways. Maybe that was wrong. But anyways, a poem, Libation, celebrating the harvest and celebrating poetry. Libation. For me, no wine, just the